Upfront warning, there are going to be several thirst traps in this video because it's necessary to watch those to highlight the points that I'm going to talk about. And if that's not your thing, then no worries, but maybe this isn't the video for you. So I was in my third or fourth hour of scrolling through TikTok as I do when I came across this video by this creator named Zavali. And I could tell it was going to be a thirst trap, and because that's not really my thing, I decided to just kind of ignore it and move on. But then I saw the label on it and it said fake body. Now this piques my curiosity because I thought maybe there would be some kind of special effects going on, or maybe some kind of virtual reality and motion tracking or something like that. So I watched the TikTok.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was...
And after seeing it, I remember being confused because it said fake body, but like, that's her body, and that's definitely a real body, right? So I went to her main TikTok page to see if they were all labeled like this, and it looks like they are. See, most of her TikToks follow a pretty similar formula where there's a song and she's wearing something, and then as the song builds up and the beat drops, she's wearing decidedly less. But let me tell you, she's making an absolute killing doing this. And I mean, her numbers are kind of insane. But if we take a deeper look at this fake body label, you notice that it's actually pretty common across TikTok, with a lot of creators who make thirst traps using it. Now, an important note before we dive deeper into this is I have no issue with people posting thirst traps. As long as it's by consenting adults for other consenting adults, then I have really no concerns about how consenting adults choose to use their bodies. This video is not to bash women for taking autonomy over themselves and using their bodies to get fame or money. It's very specifically about this fake body label and why I think it's so dumb. See, the label says fake body, and so the first thing we need to do is just a little bit of research on the actual bodies of the people who are using this label. And a cursory search reveals that their bodies aren't fake. Sure, they're done up in makeup and they've got good lighting, but the bodies themselves are not fake. So to claim that the bodies are fake is kind of naive and also pretty pointless because, and I restate, the bodies are not fake. Now, I think we can all understand and appreciate the problem that this label is trying to solve. Basically, all research ever over the topic of social media and its effect on our brains has come to the conclusion that it's bad, especially on young people. And especially on young people who are liable to see this kind of beautiful person popping up on their feeds all the time and compare themselves to that person. And I think it's pretty easy to assume that TikTok and Instagram are the worst offenders when it comes to this kind of beautiful person in an idealized environment. But this label, it doesn't do anything to prevent that because, I mean, kids are kind of stupid. Now, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Most kids don't have the reference point in their life to be able to understand the nuances of bodies and how they work. And they certainly don't have that reference point for that kind of nuance when this body is the only kind of body that they're ever exposed to. Now, I used to be very insecure about how I looked, and that was fueled by kind of the holy trinity of insecurity, wherein I was short, and I was skinny, and I had access to social media. And on social media, I would see all these tall, jacked dudes who were not much older than I was. And I saw them everywhere. Now, don't get me wrong, I also saw a lot of people say that these bodies weren't real, or they were photoshopped, or the people in them are on steroids. And as such, I shouldn't compare myself with them. And ultimately, none of that advice mattered. This voice of reason telling me that the bodies were fake could not drown out the voice of insecurity, which was screaming at me that I was only 5'8" and 130 pounds. Now take this over to TikTok, where you have more access to attractive people than at any other point in the history of humanity. And we also have more kids online than ever before able to view these more attractive people. And you realize that there's not a world in which these kids look at all these beautiful people just swiping up through their timeline and they don't get insecure about themselves. And this label right here, this doesn't do jack shit about that. Now, I realize it sounds like I'm saying that these TikTokers are in the wrong for doing what they're doing, but they are absolutely not. I'm not saying we should ban attractive people off the internet, nor am I trying to police strangers and how they choose to use their bodies online. Going back to Zavali specifically, I'm not annoyed that she's showing off her body. I have absolutely no issues with that because she's an adult doing what she wants and she's getting that bag. And honestly, I'm happy that she's getting to do what she enjoys and be able to make a living off of it. My very specific issue is with the label because it doesn't do anything. It literally just exists to virtue signal. There's a reasonable argument to be made that creators should not be held responsible for the way in which their media that they create is consumed. Let's say, for example, that one of you watching has religious trauma, and seeing me wear this cross necklace in most of my videos gives you some kind of PTSD or unintended but adverse reaction. Now, no reasonable person would say that that was my fault. Not only because that wasn't my intent, but because you as the viewer do bear some responsibility for the content that you choose to consume. I would be in the right to say, okay, but then just don't watch my content then. Similarly, I don't think these TikTokers should be held responsible for the thoughts or actions of the people that are viewing their videos. They're creating something that they enjoy, and then they're putting it out there. And I don't think they should have to worry that they're ruining people's lives by doing it. The only exception for that might be if you were like making kids content and somehow tailoring thirst traps that might be harmful towards kids. And in that case, I would say you bear responsibility because that's your target demographic. But also that would be a really weird thing to do. But that weird exception aside, I think we can all agree that there is an issue with kids' consumption of social media and the subsequent issues that causes on their developing brains. And that's where this label comes in, because it acknowledges it without actually trying to help it. Slapping this label on your TikTok and then brushing your hands off and giving yourself a good old pat on the back because you single-handedly cured body dysmorphia is a really naive thing to do. And it almost comes off as mocking. By using this label, you're acknowledging that there is an issue of people, and specifically younger people, comparing themselves to these celebrities that, for all intents and purposes, appear perfect. But you're also saying that you're really unwilling to do anything about it except for slap a couple of emojis and a couple of words at the bottom of a TikTok video. This just feels like a performative checklist where you're able to wash your hands of any potential guilt you might have by contributing to this hourglass figure-related depression. If you actually want to help, then, I mean, you have a platform of millions that you could use to reach people. And you could get pretty creative with this. I mean, you could put out a video talking about how all bodies are beautiful, or maybe you duet a creator who's of a different size than you, or maybe you collaborate with a creator who's more plus size or more representative of more body types, or really anything else in the world to bring actual awareness to this issue. But this is just pathetic and really only serves to build up this illusion that you're doing the right thing without making any kind of a meaningful contribution towards the solution. Now, I realize no creator out there is putting this label on their TikTok videos with any kind of malicious intent or thinking that they're hurting anybody by doing it. But by putting this label on their videos, they're acknowledging that there is an issue, that they are in some capacity actively participating in. And then they're saying that this issue they're highlighting is not actually important enough to bring any real attention to. And this is the kind of issue that people kill themselves over. Now, these creators don't bear any direct responsibility for that, of course, nor do they bear any direct responsibility for trying to proactively fix the mental health of millions of potential viewers. They don't even have to acknowledge there's an issue if they don't want to, and that's okay. But then, don't use this label at all. Just don't do anything. If you want to help, that's amazing, and I strongly encourage it. But then, actually help. Do something real and tangible. And if you don't want to help, that's okay too. No one is forcing or even really expecting you to. But if you choose that, then don't do anything at all. The worst thing you can do is this, which is just performative and pointless. If you're going to do good, then do good. And if you're not, that's okay too. But at least have the decency to not try and trick people into thinking that you are. But even more importantly than that is not forgetting to love all of the people around you, and I'll catch you all next video.